What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, everybody? Welcome in to the Kansas City Chiefs' first live post-game show of the 2023 season as the Kansas City Chiefs fall to the Detroit Lions 21-20 on banner night. An embarrassing fashion, I have to say, right off the bat. This is probably one of the worst losses of the Patrick Mahomes era. Like, one of the worst losses I've seen in a while. Just from how lethargic the offense was. The fact that the Lions hung around the entire game, you could never really put it away. The self-inflicted wounds, the mistakes, all that stuff. It was a rough game, Michael, but obviously you were there. You left the game early, but I kind of want to get your take on how the experience was being there for kind of just the ceremonial stuff before the game. The fact that the Chiefs are reigning Super Bowl champions in 2023. And then, of course, give me your initial thoughts for this game after that. But I do want to hear about how the experience was for you being at Arrowhead Stadium for tonight.
It was a blessing. I got to go down on the field pregame like I always do. And I was down on the field when the players ran out and I saw the banner drop and the fans lose their mind. It was awesome because we didn't have that experience in 2020 after the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl because of COVID. So it was really nice to have that, championship type of celebration at the stadium. And it was kind of like one big party. The fan base was just rocking. And I will say there were a lot more Lions fans there than I thought there was going to be. There wasn't a ton, but just way more than I expected. But, as the game went on, I left about halftime. But from what I saw, I agree with you 100%. The offense just looked lethargic. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a very high completion percentage in this game, which we'll talk about that and why that's the case. But, the offense just didn't really click. And I know a lot of people are saying that, the defense didn't look half bad, holding the Lions to 21 points, really 14 points if you take away that pick six. I would argue that it was the first game of the season and the Lions offense just wasn't clicking. And in the fourth quarter, when the Chiefs defense needed to step up and stop the run, even without Chris Jones, they weren't able to do that. They weren't able to force a ton of pressure in this game, but when push came to shove and you had to stop the run, guys like Derek Nottie and Keandre Coburn were nowhere to be seen. And the Lions were able to run the ball effectively, and the Chiefs just were not. And I think that, the Lions offense might not have been stellar, but I don't think that is any product of the Chiefs defense being really good, just more like the Lions offense was just really rusty.
Well, just looking at the team stats, the Detroit Lions were only 5 of 15 on third down, and they were 1 of 3 on fourth down. Yep. The problem was the Chiefs were worse. They were 5 of 14 on third down and 1 of 4 on fourth down. The Lions passed for more yards. They rushed for more yards. They averaged more yards per play. And when you look at the stats, you go like, oh my gosh, like that's terrible. But then really you look, if you watch the game, the defense only gave up 14 points, honestly. One of them was a pick six, or one of the Lions touchdowns was a pick six by Brian Branch. So it's kind of difficult to explain the defensive performance because it wasn't terrible, but they were definitely missing something. And look, we knew this team was going to be without Chris Jones tonight. I suspected that being without him meant they were going to struggle to get pressure, and they did. And I also think they missed Chris Jones in the run defense game. I really did. Chris Jones has made strides as a run defender over the course of his career, and I think, Chris Jones is a big dude. Like, he can help defend the run. You didn't have him tonight. There's a lot of inexperience on this interior defensive line now. Well, defensive line altogether, really, you could say that. I mean, you got FAU, who's a rookie, George Karlaftis, he's a sophomore. But yeah, man, the defensive performance, like it's hard to put this on them. You really got to look at the offense.
This was an offensive problem.
Yeah, they didn't put up enough points. Like holding the Lions to 14 points on offense. I know they scored 21, but holding them to 14 points, like you should be winning this game 9 times out of 10. And this is just that 10th time where the Chiefs could not pull out the win. And you mentioned Mahomes' completion percentage, and I had sent out a tweet during the game saying Mahomes looks off to me, and people were like, "Whoa, what are you talking about?" Like, "Oh, it's his receivers, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, look, the receivers did not help him tonight. I'll give you that." But Mahomes was underthrowing guys. He was throwing into triple coverage. He didn't look all that comfortable. He was 21 of 39 for 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He's certainly had worse games, but this is also far from his best game. And you look at the receivers, man, I think they're really the story of this game. Their leading receiver was Marquez Valdez-Scantling with 2 catches for 48 yards. Behind him was Justin Watson, 2 catches for 45 yards. And then their third leading receiver was Isaiah Pacheco out of the backfield. I want to get into some of these comments because a lot of them are going to hit on pretty much what I was going to talk about. Village Boy says, Veach did not sign or did not do enough in the offseason again. He did not sign a veteran wide receiver one yet again. Brett Veach has to be held accountable for the terrible wide receiver room. Without Kelsey, we are done. Choosing Sky over Pickens is a terrible pick. Need to trade for a wide receiver, Mike Evans. I agree with you all. I do. I really do. Whenever I made that video about Travis Kelsey getting hurt before this game, I acknowledge the fact that it should only be a one-game ordeal, and that's fine. But this echoes a long-term concern that a lot of Chiefs fans have. Travis Kelsey is going to be 34 years old. He had that knee injury right before this game, but he also had that back end injury to end last season. And the injuries for Kelsey seem to be piling up a little bit. You hope it's not something that hits this fast, because Brett Veach did not do enough in the wide receiver room to make up for the loss of Travis Kelsey. Like, this offense just did not have enough playmakers tonight. They didn't. Like, I really liked what this wide receiver room had. I like the talent that it has. I like the youth. I like the depth. But unfortunately, it isn't as effective when Travis Kelsey is not there. And Travis Kelsey not being there, it hurt them. Like, Rashee Rice, he made some nice plays tonight, but he's not ready for that big of a role. Sky Moore, who I'm really wanting to talk about, where is Sky Moore? All offseason, Veach and Reed and all the Chiefs coaches, they were talking about Sky Moore. We're expecting him to have a big role this year. Like, Sky Moore, look out for him. And all the Chiefs fans were telling me, don't worry about Sky Moore. He's just a rookie. He's still learning. If there was ever a game for Sky Moore to help out, it would have been tonight when Travis Kelsey was out. And I saw absolutely nothing from Sky Moore to make me optimistic that he's a good football player. Point blank. I don't from what I saw tonight, Sky Moore's not good. He's not good, guys. They missed on that pick. Maybe I'm sending in the white towel too early. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I am not seeing anything from Sky Moore that tells me he's going to be a good football player. Call it a week one overreaction if you want. That's what I saw on the field tonight. Sky Moore is not an NFL wide receiver. He can't get separation. A lot of these Chiefs wide receivers can't get separation. That was the main issue tonight. You don't have any guys getting separation, and then the one guy that you do have getting separation, Kadarius Toney, can't catch the freaking ball. Like, we talked about in Kingdom Crew last night, Michael, how there's a very short list of players on the Chiefs that if you slowly start to take them away, or that if they go down, you seriously start to become concerned about the Chiefs' ability to win football games. The Chiefs were missing 2 out of those 3 players tonight, and they lost. I've said for ages, you cannot rely on Patrick Mahomes to cover up every single blemish on this team. A lot of Chiefs fans have always said to me, as long as they have Mahomes, they're in contention. It doesn't matter. You got Patrick Mahomes. You can throw Patrick Mahomes out there with 3 fans from the stands at receivers, and he can make do with it. No, he can't. He needs some sort of help, guys. He cannot do this alone. He did not have the help tonight that he needed. I do want to say, though, before I let you speak, Michael, that the offensive line, I thought, did pretty well tonight. I thought they did a good job. Mahomes wasn't sacked tonight at all, so that's a positive, right? You want to point out the Jawan Taylor versus Aiden Hutchinson matchup. I get it. Aiden Hutchinson got him a few times, but Jawan Taylor more than held his own. Also, another note that I'll attach to that, a lot of people were complaining about Jawan Taylor's cadence tonight and how it looked like he was offside, or not offsides, that he false started on every single play. And I'm just going to say, guys, look, if the refs aren't calling it, why not do it? So I don't blame Jawan Taylor for that. And Mitchell Schwartz did the same exact thing for years. He always looked like he was false starting. I don't know. I think it's the thing that the Chiefs offensive, Andy Heck, I think that's something he coaches within his offensive linemen. But anyway, Michael, I know I threw a lot at you right there, but
yes, you did.
Yeah, I am. Oh, actually, sorry. No, one more thing before I let you speak. Why are we giving the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire still? Why? Why? What? He was running back number 1 tonight. He got more carries than any other running back. 6 rushes for 22 yards. That's less than 4 yards per carry. And I believe there was like 4 separate drives in which Clyde Edwards-Helaire got a touch. I think the results on those, and I could be wrong on this, but if I was keeping track right, every single drive Clyde Edwards-Helaire got a touch. This is what the drives ended in: punt, 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 field goal. I am done with CEH. I don't know why this team continues to make the mistake of trotting him out there like he's this team star running back. He's not. We've done this experiment for years. It is over. Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon are better, so stop wasting your time, Andy. Stop. Just stop doing it. Also, Dave Tope sucks. I just want to throw that in there, too.
Okay,
Okay,
we gotta hit the whole gamut.
Yeah.
We gotta get it all. Frank Clark sucks, too. I want to say that right now. I will say, I don't think the Chiefs running backs as a whole did a very good job tonight. Patrick Mahomes was your leading rusher, point blank. So they need to do a lot better on the ground, whether it's McKinnon or Pacheco. And if you're going to give the ball to Clyde, he's got to do something. And I don't think he's going to do that. But, that's neither here nor there. The Chiefs running backs have got to do a better job of getting those tough yards on the ground. Call me crazy. I'm not really too worried about the Chiefs wide receiver core right now. I know this did not look good. It didn't look good. Kadarius Toney's dropping the ball like easy passes. He's just dropping them. Rashee Rice did the same thing. I do echo your same sentiment about Sky Moore. I don't know if Sky Moore is the answer at all, but I don't think that Kadarius Toney's going to continue up doing this. Like, this is very out of character for Kadarius Toney. And I also think that Rashee Rice, for a guy playing in his first career NFL game, caught that touchdown pass. He looked okay. And so I think that the Chiefs definitely have, wide receivers that can do the job. They just let Mahomes down tonight. And that's bound to happen. That's also a byproduct of it being the first game of the season. There's some growing pains. And so am I happy that this happened to the wide receiver core? No. But I do think there was going to be some growing pains, and I think that the first week of the season, it was bound to happen. I mean, I thought that our offense was going to be a little bit better, but the offense as a whole wasn't good. And you could kind of just tell, taking out the drops, they still were not clicking. This offense was not clicking. And whether that's because Travis Kelce wasn't there or Patrick Mahomes just, was trying to get back up to speed, I'm not sure. And he's throwing to a lot of new young guys. But I definitely think that, the offense was going to go through some growing pains, at least in the first half, but they just never were able to find rhythm and turn it on in the second half. And yeah, it sucks to lose this game because now you're 0-1 and you lose a game that you're, playing at home in front of all of your fan base and you're coming off of a Super Bowl championship, which sucks. Yeah. But I will say that I'm not all doom and gloom because I do think that, we have the pieces at wide receiver. We just are going to have to give it some time. I don't think Kadarius Toney is going to keep up this historic drop level. You know what I mean? Like it's bound to shift eventually. And, next week against Jacksonville, I think is a much better chance of turning things around. I will say that, where my job is with the Chiefs, we have like a station right by where the players walk in. And Travis Kelce walked in street clothes well after all the players came in, which made sense because he was deactivated and he wasn't going to play. Yeah. But I think it is worth noting that I watched him walk very closely. Didn't look good. Did not look like he was walking right. He was he had a hitch to his walk and was walking kind of slow. And I do think that is something to take a look at because maybe he's not back next week. And you're going to have to do this whole thing over again. And
against the Jags team that we think is pretty good.
Exactly. So the Chiefs are going to have to find a way to score on offense without Travis Kelce. And I think these wide receivers, somebody's got to step up. Justin Ross had a catch tonight. Hopefully he can get something going in the second game. But I am going to say to pull Lucas Murphy, I've got a little bit of optimism. And I don't think this entire wide receiver core is trash. It would be nice to have a number one wide receiver. Don't get it twisted. I was on the train for trading for somebody. But this is what the Chiefs wide receiver core is. They're confident in it. And I don't think that one game can accurately depict what the final product of this wide receiver group is going to be.
I will say it's a little bit of a wake-up call for Brett Veach in the front office on what life after Travis Kelce is going to be like.
Yeah.
You got to be able to absorb his loss. They just couldn't tonight. They were not a coherent offense whatsoever. And you just got to be prepared for it. I mean, he's 34 years old. He's going to be 30, or he's going to be 34, and then he's going to be 35 the season after this. And who knows what happens after that, man? Like, he's getting to that age, and we're starting to see the injuries pop up for a guy that's getting older. And even if he were to be out there and healthy tonight, me and you have agreed over and over again, you cannot keep relying on Travis Kelce like he's 28 years old. Even if he was out there tonight, you can't be putting all these expectations on his shoulders. You can't be putting all this weight on his back of carrying the Chiefs offense. It's not fair to him. And I think Brett Veach honestly botched not getting a veteran wide receiver, because these are the kind of situations we were talking about in which it would be nice to have a veteran wide receiver. And Veach took a gamble on some young guys. And I agree for the most part, or to an extent, about what you said, that this probably isn't the final product of what the wide receiver core is going to be. Tonight was the first game. It was a lot of these guys' first game with the Chiefs on offense in particular. So I don't want to be that week one overreactor, but it's hard because you could almost see it coming from 1,000 miles away. Like, I could have told you this was going to happen. The Chiefs are without two of their three best players. Maybe I should have picked them to lose last night on Kingdom Crew. And by the way, speaking of our predictions last night, I thought it was going to be relatively high scoring. It wasn't. It really wasn't. These were two of the top three offenses from last year. Both teams scored under 30 points. I found that to be pretty interesting. But back to the Chiefs offense, man. A couple things that also concern me. Short yardage offense. This continues to be a problem. It is damn near impossible with this team to gain a yard on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, just short yardage situations. And they go with some brain dead play call, a jet sweep to Rashee Rice, where like 4 guys were not even blocked. It wasn't even close. We do this every single year. Like, I don't know what has happened to the short yardage offense. And then, Andy Reid has to get over this freak injury that happened to Mahomes 4 years ago on that quarterback sneak. You just have to start quarterback sneaking it again, Andy. Everyone else in the league does it. Every other team in the league can run a quarterback sneak with their guy. I don't care anymore that Mahomes got injured 4 or 5 years ago. You got to get over it. You just do.
The short yardage situations on 3rd and 4th down, it's so bad because it's so predictable, and it has been predictable for the last 3 years. And at a certain point, like, I understand the not wanting to use Mahomes on QB sneaks, but you're getting so cute to the point where you're having rookie Rashee Rice, who might be $190, try to push the pile and get a first down on 3rd and short. If you're going to do that, you need a guy with some weight to him. And a Blake Bell, QB sneak, while it's predictable, that has a way better chance of working than a jet sweep with Rashee Rice. I just don't understand the thought process of trying to get so cute on short yardage situations. And I want that to change. I don't know if it'll ever change. That's just Andy Reid for you, but they're going to have to figure something out, because the Lions knew that play was going to happen before the Chiefs even snapped the ball. So if you can't figure that out, especially with Travis Kelce, being a question mark, good luck.
It's tough. I don't know why they have to overcomplicate it. They make it so hard on themselves. You invest so much into this offensive line. There's been so much investment into this offensive line over the last few years. You have what a lot of people consider to be the best interior 3 in football, and yet you don't utilize them in short yardage. They never do it. They can't. It's like, just give Isaiah Pacheco the rock. Hell, you can even have Blake Bell blocking in front of him, going I formation, something, and just, have them run behind Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. It's really not that hard. Why do we overcomplicate this so much, Andy?
I don't get it. I'm actually looking up Rashee Rice's weight because I want to know how much he weighs. I know that's very irrelevant.
It's like right around 200,
Yeah,
I think.
he does not look 200 pounds.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to go over a couple comments real quick.
Sounds good.
Chris Kim says every year Chiefs had some stretches of bad games in the past and thought we weren't making it past the division round in the playoffs. Just breathe. Just one game. We will be fine. And look, I understand that. I mean, this team lost to the Colts last year very early in the season, and we actually were, under a different tone after that game. We're like, oh, guys, you know what? These early season losses happen. It was just, it's fine. I don't think it's gonna determine the Chiefs season, nothing like that. Like, and it ended up not being a problem. They won the Super Bowl. So I agree to an extent, but something just felt different tonight. Something just felt off. Like, there are some issues with this Chiefs team. I'm sure we will start to see some of this stuff ironed out. Hopefully they get Chris Jones back in the fold very soon. Hopefully the Kelsey thing doesn't take much longer to resolve, but I'm very concerned about this wide receiver core after tonight. Do I think they get a little bit better? Do I think Kadarius Toney has 4 drops or whatever it was for another game this season? I don't think so, because someone else also had a comment about maybe this just a bad game for Toney, and I understand that because Toney usually has had reliable hands in the past, and the thing with Toney is that so one of the plays I don't really blame on him. Richie James ran in front of him right as the ball was coming his way. I can understand why that would throw a player off. There was just poor execution on both of their routes. And once you drop it a few times, your head can kind of get out of the game. And it's on Kadarius Toney to get back in the game mentally, but I'm going to write this game off as a one-off for Kadarius Toney. I don't think he's going to be like that for the rest of the season. We've seen what Kadarius Toney can do. I don't think he's going to be like that for the rest of the year. Hopefully this is the worst wide receiver performance we see all year. But it just becomes more of a concern when you realize Travis Kelsey isn't going to be here forever. And tonight was a little bit of a taste of what life is going to be like after Travis Kelsey is gone. And other guys are going to have to step up. And I just didn't see enough stepping up. I really didn't. I know these guys are young, but Sky Moore, this is his second year now in the league. This is a second season, and I'm just seeing nothing from him. I don't get it. I don't get the hype. I don't understand why we took the guy over George Pickens. That's just how I feel. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but I am seeing nothing from Sky Moore at all. And then Justin Ross, star of preseason, basically. Where was he tonight? He had like 1 catch for 3 yards, I think. It's rough.
Yeah. The Chiefs just have a very interesting way of showcasing certain players and not showcasing certain players because, why is Justin Ross not playing more, or why is Clyde playing at all? I don't know. And there's no way to answer that because we're not in the front office. But I will say that while the wide receiver core was abysmal tonight and maybe the single biggest factor why you lost the game, I think this has to be a thing that happens a couple more times before I say this is what they are. I think it's a one-off performance where, you got unfortunate. If Kadarius Toney drops half of the balls that he did tonight moving forward, we're going to have a problem. And so I'm hoping for the best and that this is just a fluke. But also, Rashee Rice playing in his first game, Justin Ross playing in his first game. A lot of young guys, and so they just weren't ready for this stage. The adrenaline was probably pumping through their brains because, shoot, you're playing in front of your home fan base after winning a Super Bowl. It was an electric atmosphere, and they maybe got a little bit too hyped up. But yeah, they got to calm down because they sold tonight. They really did.
Yeah. So a few more comments. Jackie Gerard says Taylor has done that false start technique his whole career, including the playoff game versus the Jags last year. Yeah, I specifically remember him doing that in the playoff game last year. And again, I'll reiterate, if the refs aren't calling it, then why complain about him doing it? Like, I'm not like he's just taking advantage of the flow of the game. And Mitchell Schwartz also did the same thing when he was here. Maybe not as much as Taylor did tonight. And unfortunately, the one time he did get called for false starting happened to be the 4th and 20 and made it like a 4th and 25, which I don't. What do you think of the decision to go for it on 4th and 25 at the end of the game there?
I wasn't a big fan of it just because on the previous drive when it was 4th and 2, you didn't go for it. So it's just like, what are you doing on that aspect? I understand why they went for it on 4th and 25 because the thought process is, oh, we're not going to get this ball back and we don't even want to, try. But I wish they would have gone for it on 4th down the previous series because a 4th and 2 is a lot more manageable than a 4th and 25. But with how this Chiefs offense works in
Yeah,
short
I was
yardage
gonna say.
situations, maybe it's not. Maybe 4th and 25 is what Andy Reid likes.
Yeah,
But
and I mean it was almost completed too. I mean, you got to give him that, but I think as far as going for it on 4th and 25, I think I can live with the result because I think if you punted back to the Lions, the game was over. I think they would have gotten all the first downs they needed and the game would have been done. So I can appreciate the fact Andy Reid going for it there. Maybe some disagree, and that's fine. I don't know. I think if they gave the ball back to the Lions, they weren't getting it back. That's just how I feel. I've seen that play out that way too many times. I'm personally not a fan of betting on the defense, not this defense. And I'm not even saying the defense is bad, and we're going to start talking about the defense here in a minute, but it's just like the Chiefs aren't an elite defense. So, I'm not super comfortable punting the ball back to the Lions in that scenario. And the Lions were a top offense last year. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. I think most people agree with our concerns on offense, and it was a rough game. There's no sugarcoating that at all, and I'm very concerned about the wide receiver room going forward. I'm gonna have to see it from them, man. And I don't know the Chiefs coaches, and then what we saw in preseason and training camp really led a lot of people to believe that this wide receiver core had what it took. Not so sure about that anymore. Unless you have any parting thoughts on the offense, we'll go ahead and talk about the defense, though.
we better just pray that they're better in week 2 because
Better pray that Travis Kelce's back.
yeah. My final thing to talk about the offense, I do think this was a one-off performance, but I will say that as much as we're talking about how bad the wide receivers were and how inconsistent they were, Mahomes' completion percentage, he looked off. I still think the tackles, while they didn't give up a sack, the pressures, I really looked at the pressures. They had some problems with that. And, the Chiefs running backs couldn't run the football. So our offense entirely did not look good in any aspect, so to speak. And I think that is a problem, but, it's week 1. Hopefully in week 2, we don't have the same problems. If we do, we're going to have a serious issue. But until then, it's just a fluke, I guess.
Yeah, Steven Vestal says, what I want to know is, was it Reed or Bieniemy making the call the past few years? I want to say it was Reed. I mean, Bieniemy was the fall guy a lot, but I think most people understand that usually in those big spots, Andy Reid is the one making the play calls. I'm 99% sure that on that 4th and 1 play call to Rashee Rice that was Andy's thing. So yeah, I mean, it kind of looks the same. It's the same stuff that Andy did last year, even when Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator. So yeah, I'd got to say that it's a Reed. Cole, nice to see you. He says disappointing game. Would have to agree. Let's talk about the defense though. Shem Shakur says the defense only gave up 14 points because I made some comment about the defense a minute ago. I'm assuming that's what he's kind of responding to. And look, yeah, no, the defense, they were fine tonight. They weren't bad at all. But I said it's kind of hard to break down the performance because even though they only gave up 14 points, they still gave up 368 yards of offense, 250 passing yards, and 118 rushing yards. But the Lions average 5.3 yards per play, which is nothing too crazy. And their third down efficiency wasn't great, but they got 19 first downs, which means they were succeeding a lot on first and second down. So and I saw a lot of plays too, typical Spags defense where they would give up the 3rd and long or something like that. Or there was there was 1 second and long. It was 2nd and 20 or something like that. I think the Chiefs ended up forcing the Lions to punt, but the Chiefs always give those teams the yards they need to where they either get a first down or they're close enough to heavily consider going for it. And that happened too many times tonight. The Lions, they went for it on 4th down 3 times. They were only 1 of 3, luckily, but could have ended up a lot worse. So, I don't know. I'll ask you this, Michael, just to kind of get something to get the ball rolling on this defensive discussion. How much would you say they missed Chris Jones tonight?
That's a good question. They weren't able to force a ton of pressure. Mike Dana was the only sack in this
Yeah,
game.
a lot of blitzing.
A lot of blitzing, which I will give Spags some credit for. That's how you get innovative without your best defensive player in the middle. So I did like that, but even then, they still weren't really getting home. It was just more applying pressure. I remember on that fourth down in the fourth quarter, towards the end of the game, where I believe it was Justin Reed who batted a ball down at the line. They initially had him as a spy. He was, at the line of scrimmage, batted that ball down. We got the ball back, and the commentators like, "Oh, you just gave the ball back to Patrick Mahomes with 2 minutes left." Well, we saw how that ended, but I liked the approach there. Defensively, I don't really have a lot of gripes. How much they miss Chris Jones. I mean, you're going to miss Chris Jones when he's not on the field because he's Chris Jones. But it's so weird because I'm not coming out of this game thinking that the defense didn't do enough. I wish they would have stopped the run better. But even then, I don't know how much of a difference Chris Jones would have made in stopping the run because he's not even primarily a run defender. So I wonder how much of that is it's just the first game of the season, but also you gave up 14 points to an offense that was top 3 in the NFL last year on opening night. 14 points. That's good enough to get the job done, and your offense, crap the bed. So defensively,
the game, it's squarely on the offense. I want to make that clear. I was just curious how much you thought Chris Jones not being there affected them tonight, if they could have done even better if he was there.
Let me go on a little bit of a rant real quick.
Well, I was going to let you do that, but I'll say one more thing. I think they definitely missed him when it came to applying pressure.
Yes.
I think the Chiefs defensive line, they did about as well as you could have hoped. They did bat down a lot of passes at the line of scrimmage. I did appreciate that about their performance tonight. But the pressure is not the same without Chris Jones being there. Chris Jones has that ability to absolutely wreck the game, and you were missing that just a little bit tonight. But I know a lot of people have thoughts, including you, on the fact that Chris Jones was there in a suite watching the game, but he wasn't on the sideline. He wasn't playing, but he was there. Very strange behavior, strange strategy for a holdout. What I know you had some strong thoughts on that, though. So why don't you go ahead and let everyone know how you feel?
Yeah, I do not like that at all. Chris Jones spoke to the press yesterday saying that, I could play tomorrow if, we were able to come to an agreement, and that's worked out contractually. That was never going to happen. So we knew that he wasn't going to play. The rumor going around yesterday was that there was a small chance that he comes to the game either in street clothes on the sideline or he would attend the game as a fan. Chris Jones attended the game with his 2 agents and sat in the middle of them in a suite, watching his brothers and his teammates fight it out on the field, and he's just sitting there watching it. And to me, I've got no problem with Chris Jones holding out. Get your money. Don't play until you get paid. But something about him coming to the game in street clothes really rubs me the wrong way, especially because, he just sat up there, and to me, it kind of felt like a publicity stunt. Like, oh yeah, like I'm here watching the game, but it also kind of felt like he wanted the Chiefs to be like kind of flustered by it. I think Chris Jones being in the stands was more harmful to the team than it was beneficial to the team. Because how would you feel, Josh, if, you're at work and your coworker, who you're really good friends with, just watches you work when he calls in sick? Like, you would not like that. You'd be like, why aren't you down here working with us? We could use you right now. And so that's kind of how I feel about the Chris Jones situation, because I understand, you don't feel like you're being treated fairly and you want to get your money, but this almost brings the team down and takes the team into this situation, and that's not fair to those guys. And so I really didn't like the fact that Chris Jones showed up tonight and sat in a suite, because it brings the attention to him, and I just think that, it was kind of a selfish thing to do. I'm not a big fan.
I think it's kind of peculiar how when he was interviewed at his charity event, he talked about how, he was doing a holdout rather than a hold in because he felt which a hold in basically what he means is like having an open contract dispute with the front office while being there and playing. He didn't want to do that because he felt like that would be a distraction to the team. But I feel like it's a pretty big distraction to the team that you're at the game in the stadium, but you're not playing with them.
It's a really big distraction. And it's also kind of a big FU to not only the coaching staff, but your teammates. Like, I couldn't imagine me being on the field and, your guy, the guy that is like your leader, and he's just up there in the stands when he's perfectly healthy. It'd be different if, he was hurt, but he's fine. Yeah. He could be playing right now, but no, he needs to get paid. And so I think that this situation that made it, this almost like kind of swayed me against Chris Jones. It really pissed me off because I just think that it's almost not about the contract anymore. And that it just seems kind of just disgusting.
Yeah, it's just odd that you'd be in open contract negotiations and not playing, but you'd be at the stadium. And apparently the Chiefs didn't have a problem with it. But I don't know. I'm still like, I'm very pro Chris Jones. I'm very like pro player. I'm kind of on Chris Jones' side throughout this all, but I just don't think him being there. I don't think him being there in the stands was a good look at all. I don't think it was a good move on his part. And I think it was kind of a play as like, look, guys, I'm here. Like I could be on the field. Like you could have me. Just give me the money that I want. And you could say that the defensive performance was good enough that the Chiefs are like, what are you talking about? Like, we looked all right tonight without you. Well, we're just wondering when you're going to come back. They did say on the broadcast, though, I thought it was worth mentioning that Chris Jones basically confirmed with them. It sounded, I'm pretty sure the sideline reporter had like spoke with Chris Jones or at least his team or somebody representing Chris Jones. And they basically all but confirmed that Chris Jones would sit out up until week 8. So we'll see what happens.
Guess he'll be riding the pine then. At this point, I also think the reason that it's disappointing is because it seemed like a publicity stunt where he sat in between his two agents. Just kind of like yeah, you should pay me kind of thing. It'd be different if he was sitting on his couch tweeting about the game, but the fact that he was there and, doing it so publicly, not a very big fan of it, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, Shem Shakur says Jones said he didn't want to miss the championship banner being hoisted, and I know, I understand that part, but still, it's like if you're going to do that, like be down on the sidelines with the team, talk to Andy, talk to your team, like go to, like be a part of the team. Like if you're going to be there, like be there. Chris Jones was sitting in a suite where rich people sit to watch the games. Like he was like just some spectator. And that's the part that I think a lot of people aren't appreciative of.
Which, if I remember correctly, the whole, he wanted to be there so he could watch the banner drop. I don't think he was at the ring ceremony earlier this summer. So really? You wanted to see the banner drop, but you didn't want to be with your teammates when you got your championship ring?
Yeah.
What?
That's a really good point. It's a really good point.
It's all bullshit. My bad. It's
okay. Just, YouTube relax on their guidelines. You can throw in a cuss word.
It's all BS, man. Like they're doing this for publicity. And again, get paid, man. I'm all for it. Make your money, but something about it kind of tarnished this night, at least in that aspect, because I don't think that helped him at all. In fact, I think it kind of hurt him because he already wasn't in very good, eyes of the fans. I was in Chris Jones' corner, and right now I'm not in Chris Jones' corner. That was very disappointing.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to talk about Chris Jones too much though.
Exactly.
We really could. We could talk about him.
He's not even on the team.
Day. Yeah, we could talk about him every day if we wanted to, for hours. But I'll ask you this: what is your concern level on a scale from 1 to 10 with this Kansas City Chiefs team? They play a Jaguars team next week that we think is pretty good. They do have extra rest, kind of a mini bye week since they played tonight. So So we'll see how much healthier they get, or if they get something done with Chris Jones in the next, I think it was like 11 days until their next game, something like that. So we'll see what happens. But what's your concern level right now?
My concern level, it's interesting because I'm kind of coming out of this game not really knowing what to think, because I also don't think the defense is going to be that good against Jacksonville. That was kind of a smokescreen. And I also don't think the offense is going to be that bad against Jacksonville. So I kind of have
Yeah.
some mixed feelings. I'd say I'm honestly, since it's the first game, I'm probably at like a 2 or a 3. It's not very high. I think it's very much so a fluke of, the Chiefs have a couple games every year where you come out of it just thinking, what just happened? And that was just kind of what we saw. The offensive execution wasn't there. The defense has a couple plays that, if it changes, you probably win this game. If Kadarius Toney doesn't drop the ball 4 times, you probably go down the field and score, and, you don't have this problem where you lose by 1 point. So I'm not super concerned. Jacksonville is a better team, though. That game's going to be big. Travis Kelce might not be back. I don't think Chris Jones is going to be back. So you're in the exact same situation. So I think we're going to get a lot better of an evaluation after this Jacksonville game, going on the road to Jacksonville, than this game was.
Yeah, I would say my concern level is probably a little bit higher, maybe at like a 4 or a 5. Just I did not feel great watching this offense tonight. And the broadcast did mention during the game that workout that Travis Kelce had this morning to see if he was good to go, that it was a pool workout, and that Travis Kelce had, quote, no power when he was doing his workout this morning, and that he just really could not push off that knee. So I know he was a game time decision tonight. His injury scares me a little bit, though, that this could be something that goes a couple weeks, even with this gap that we have in between now and the next game. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. Nick Bolton mentioned after the game that he thought the defense missed a lot of tackles. I would have to agree with him there. We talked about that, though, last night on Kingdom Crew, how missed tackles are a thing that you usually see early in the season. I saw a lot of plays that really the runners should have went down on first contact, but the Chiefs just were not wrapping up. There were quite a few times where I saw the corners not wrapping up. Speaking of Nick Bolton, though, I think he's someone that in particular did have a good game. If you want to point out like a bright spot in this game or something positive about the defense, Nick Bolton was out there getting feisty, man. He got in a fight with Penei Sewell and threw him down on the ground. And then a few minutes later on a different drive, he absolutely flattened David Montgomery, the Lions running back who was picking up the blitz. He looks like he hit the weight room this past offseason. I'm excited for what Nick Bolton could do this year. So not so much negativity in this post-game show. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we can get a good performance from the defense next week. Like you said, though, the offense, you don't think they're going to be as bad as they were in this game next week. And I hope that's the case. I really do. Because if that's the case, I think the Chiefs would beat the Jaguars. But the Jaguars, I think, they might be better than the Lions. The Lions just missed the playoffs last year, but the Jaguars made the playoffs, and they gave the Chiefs a little bit of a scare. And I thought they made some pretty big moves this past offseason. So next week's going to be tough. My concern level is a little bit somewhere in the middle on a scale from 1 to 10. I'm just something about this wide receiver performance, this offensive performance. Patrick Mahomes looking off, having a lot of incompletions. It made me a little bit worried. And this is what I've always tried to stress to Chiefs fans, is that Patrick Mahomes is not God. He is not Superman, and that you have to give him some sort of help. We kind of saw something similar last year in the AFC Championship game when all these guys started to go down. And Mahomes was also injured, and that's worth noting. His ankle was still screwed up. But Tony got hurt, and Juju got hurt, and Kelce had a back injury. It wasn't really all that effective. And you saw the offense sputter a little bit. And guess who had to swoop in and save the day? Chris Jones and the defense. That's what happened in the AFC Championship. You didn't have Chris Jones today to help you win this game. And when Kelce went down and you had this ragtag group of wide receivers, it just didn't work, man. Patrick Mahomes could not overcome that. I don't want to act like that Patrick Mahomes can't. I don't want to make it seem like he has to have all these superstar wide receivers, because he doesn't, but you at least need some sort of bona fide wide receiver one. And I don't think the Chiefs have that. Like MVS is probably their best wide receiver, and MVS is ideally your 2 or 3 on a really good football team.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I hope this is just a fluke because this would be very weird if it wasn't. Because coming into this season, we weren't concerned about the drops and the miscues. It was more just the Chiefs don't have a number one option. They've got a lot of other guys, but they just don't have a number one option. But if they're this bad in the second game, my concern level is going to go up a lot. But I also think that we just are going to have to be patient. And I do think they fixed this against Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's a much better team. So maybe the defense has some problems, and so your offense is going to have to pick you up. I know Patrick Mahomes is not Jesus, and we shouldn't expect him to be, but he has to be better than he was tonight. He also just missed way too many wide open receivers. Granted, who knows if he hits those receivers if they catch the freaking ball, but I think that some of the receivers got open tonight and Mahomes didn't hit them, and then Mahomes threw perfect balls to him and then they dropped them. And so it took a lot of different stuff going wrong. It was kind of a weird fluky night. I'm just excited to move on. I'm trying to move past this game because if we try to dwell on it too much, that's where you get, caught up on it. And against Jacksonville, that's not going to help you.
Yeah, Nathan Barnes says forget a wide receiver 1, at least a bona fide veteran that's competent. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my point too, is like you could have still grabbed one of those guys even like I don't know. Who was the wide receiver for the Patriots that went to the Raiders this offseason? Jacoby Myers. Like that's like he's solid. Like that's a guy that I kind of would have liked. He didn't end up making that much money. He got about the same as Juju. I can understand if they didn't want to bring Juju back because of the knee concerns, but like Jacoby Myers was out there. I really like him. I'm not even asking for a D Hop or an OBJ. Those guys got a lot of money. I know that's what a lot of fans wanted, but even just some sort of veteran, like Nathan is saying, like I totally agree.
Sure.
And Patrick Mahomes, again, not Jesus. He's like you said, he's not. And I hate when we do this thing where we got to rely on him and we can't find ways to win football games outside of Patrick Mahomes. Like, when is the strong running game finally going to develop for this team that you can? Patrick Mahomes just can hand the ball off 20 times for the second half and this team will win the game still. Or how about just someone else like scheming these guys open, giving them that dump off, that check down, and having them turn it into something, or have better blocking so the screens go for more yards, stuff like that. Like somebody else has to step up. We've been in this scenario too many times where the game comes down to Patrick Mahomes having to pull off some magical comeback, some rabbit out of a hat, like the 4th and 25. Like, sure, we've seen Mahomes make plays like that before and like get this team out of a jam, but it's not sustainable. It's something that this team has done for way too long, is relying on Patrick Mahomes to do everything. And I get that he's their best player. And so most of the time when they win, it's going to be because of him. But in these games where Mahomes and the wide receivers aren't necessarily clicking, like what else is your team good at? I need to see somebody else step up. I need to see them utilize the running game more. I need to see them utilize the quick passing game instead of Mahomes dropping back super far and waiting for these receivers that can't get open against man coverage to get open, because that's kind of the story of the night, is that they aren't getting open. And then, like I said, the times that they were getting open, they just couldn't catch the ball. Just a really discouraging performance, man. I can't say that enough. I'm really disappointed in how they looked tonight.
I agree. I mean, they're going to have to be better. I want to address the comment by Aaron Purdue that he swore that he heard fans booing KT after a drop. Yes, you are right. And it wasn't after a drop. It wasn't after a couple drops. It was after like the 4th drop. So I'm not one to boo players personally, but I could kind of see why after, not the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, but the 4th time, Chiefs fans are like, okay, we've had enough.
Look, and like I'm a Celtics fan for basketball. Celtics fans are very passionate, just as much as Chiefs fans are, about their team. And it's one of those things where it's not like a personal thing. It's not like fans hate Kadarius Toney, but it's like you're booing because you care and this guy is way better. Like I've seen plenty of games where like the Celtics like just lose to somebody they shouldn't, and the fans boo, and it's because it's like, come on, like we know you guys are better than this. Kadarius Toney is so much better than this. We've seen it before. We've seen what he can do for this team, and that's why fans are booing. It's nothing personal.
No. And I don't think this is Kadarius Toney. I think it's a one-off, a fluke, and expect him to be better as the season goes on.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll go ahead and close out here. It's just a disappointing game. It's kind of similar to that Indianapolis Colts game from early last year where it kind of seemed like the sky was falling a little bit. I will say that my concerns are a little bit worse than they were coming out of this game than with that Colts game. I'm a little bit worried, but I don't know, Michael. What say you? I mean, I know you said like you think this game is a kind of a fluke, kind of a one-off, but I guess relative to that Colts game last year from early last season, do you think this game is a little bit more alarming, or are you just kind of whatever, ready to move on?
It definitely feels worse because it's the first one, and they're starting 0-1 and not.
Yeah, that's what sucks. Like you got to win on opening night, man, and when you don't, it just sucks, and you're just kind of sad until.
Yeah, because the Chiefs haven't been 0-1 in the Patrick Mahomes era. They've always found a way to get it done on the first night, and so that kind of sucks. But I could also see this being more alarming because, against the Indianapolis Colts, you might have lost, but you still had Chris Jones and you still had Travis Kelce. Right now, those guys are very much so a question mark. And that's why I think the concern level might be higher than it was, against the Colts. But I don't think that I'm too worried about, the state of this team. If we continue to see these problems against the Jacksonville Jaguars, then I will be concerned. But I'm really hoping that the wide receiver miscues and the drops aren't going to continue. The Mahomes completion percentage is going to get better, and that the defense continues to ball without Chris Jones. And if that happens, I think they'll beat Jacksonville.
Hopefully, they need it. They're going to need that win because if this team starts 0-2, just wait. The fan reaction will be it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch. Like it's not going to be pleasant. Like I don't want that to happen, but I'll address this last comment by Jackie Gerard. He says, if Donovan Smith doesn't have a penalty every game this year like he did last year, he'll be better than Orlando was. Well, he's not off to a great start because he had a holding penalty tonight. And look, that's just kind of how Donovan Smith has always been. I had some people tell me that it was because he was injured last year. No, it wasn't. He's averaging 10 penalties a season since he's been in the league. Like, that's just who Donovan Smith is. He's going to get holding penalties.
He's on the board, baby. He's on the board.
Yeah. And look, I enjoy his pass blocking ability. I think he's a better scheme fit than Orlando Brown, but he's still going to have his penalties. He just does. But I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there, Michael. Hopefully this isn't the start of a terrible season. Hopefully this isn't like 2021 bad. You remember how that went, how that season started. But anything else you want to talk about before we sign off?
No, I think we covered it all. Just kind of a very strange night. It started off great with the banner dropping, and that was very, very cool to be a part of, very cool to witness in person. And, but really right from the start, seeing Travis Kelce walking in limping, that didn't look good. And, the offense just didn't click. So it just kind of felt great. Yeah, it didn't feel right. And so I don't think that's going to be the case next week. But if it is, we'll be back here and I'll, raise my concern level. But until that happens, until we see these mistakes start to recur. Is that correct?
I mean, it would be recurring by then if it happens multiple times.
We go. If we see that in this next game, my concern level is going to rise. But until that happens, I'm going to be about a 2 or a 3 on the concern level just because it's the first game of the season. They were bound to have some miscues and they just weren't able to overcome it with the lack of star power.
Yeah, I'd say my concern level is a little bit higher than yours is, but the sky is not falling by any means, not yet. You just got to come out with a win next week against Jacksonville, and I think my concerns will be eased a little bit. So we'll go ahead and end it there, guys. I appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. We actually got a pretty good crowd in here tonight, considering how many other Chiefs podcasts and post-game shows there are, so I appreciate you all stopping by. And if you're watching this after the fact, after it's already been recorded, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure to leave a comment down below. And then, Michael, you want to plug your stuff real quick, as always?
Really quick, guys, go to check me out on YouTube, KC Sports Report, Instagram, KC_Sports Report, Twitter @KC Sports Report. Do stuff for Bleacher Report. That's on the Bleacher Report mobile app. It's also on my YouTube channel, so just go check me out there. It's a one-stop shop for everything. Again, it's @KC Sports Report. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Josh. Show Me Football. What are you doing?
Yeah, show me football. Let's go. And I just dropped new merch, so check that out if you want to. Well, I thought I did pretty good on it, but Michael's stuff should all be in the description already because I basically just copied the same description that I used for Kingdom Crew last night. And if you haven't seen the Kingdom Crew podcast yet, go watch that too. Go listen to that. It's also on Spotify. Me and Michael are doing a lot of stuff this year, so hopefully you guys stick with us throughout the season to listen to what we have to say, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. But with all that being said, we will see you all in the next one, and go Chiefs. Oof. I think it's just taking forever to end. I just see like a loading circle.
I still see live.
I know.
What's going on,
I guess
ladies
you guys,
and gentlemen?
You get this. You're getting bonus content right here.
That'd be very awkward if it's still going live.
It says having trouble connecting. It won't even let me end my own stream. How does that even work? You think if
this
I
has been a microcosm of tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This shit sucked. From beginning to end, it sucked.
This is like the Chiefs offense. Watching this loading circle just keep spinning around and around. It literally will not let me end the stream. How crazy is that? You think if I X out, it'll just end it?
No, I don't.
Tell you what, let me try this on my phone. I might have to go. I might have to go on my phone and like end this. Bear with me, folks. If you haven't already clicked off, which you probably should have by now. Okay. How do I do this?
I'm not having a good time, guys. Today has not been fun.
I think, you know what, Michael, why don't you stick here for a minute? I'm going to leave, join on my phone, and see if I can end it from my phone. So, would it even let me do that? We'll see.
I'll entertain the people. Guys, today has been not a great day. Woke up very early, drove to Arrowhead, took in all the sights and sounds of Arrowhead Stadium. Hectic day at work, pushing the pyro carts down onto the field. Very heavy. They got heavier. We added lights to them. Added lights, added smoke, all that fun stuff. It was not fun, but it was a fun day seeing the banner drop. But I am ready to scroll on Chiefs Twitter and pass out tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go. All right. I think this is going to work. I'm going to press end. Y'all ready for this?
But let it drop.